Hey everybody, welcome to Geek Rant. It's Greg here again on the channel with Toby, and today we're going to be talking about episode 5 of the Rings of Power. Good. So we're picking this one up, episode 5 of the Rings of Power. This is whew, yeah, this is becoming a bit of a challenge, isn't it, to keep watching this one? I have to say.
Yeah, yeah,
What do you think?
well, I don't mind watching it, but I'm not riveted while I watch it. You know,
I think that's interesting
I'm
you say that. I think that's
yeah,
interesting you say that because I feel like that.
yeah,
You're kind of you're watching it, it's okay. There's
yeah,
some nice imagery, there's some nice scenery, there's some nice bits,
yeah,
but it just yeah, there's nothing special about it, is there?
yeah.
It
I'm
doesn't
detached from it in some
yes.
respects. It feels like
Yeah.
I'm curious about it because I love
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings,
Yes.
and I'm like,
That's what's holding us there,
what are they
isn't it?
going to,
The
yeah,
fact it's Lord of the
what are they going to
Rings.
do with it? Yeah, what are they going to do with
Yeah.
it? And it's
Yeah.
interesting because with this episode, they've introduced some new elements to the story, which I didn't realize at the time, but they're the
Yes.
elements about this episode which I didn't like as it happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I then later discovered that they're actually things that they've created and added to the
Yeah.
story, like the
Yeah.
origins of Mithril, for example,
Yes.
which
Yes.
I was kind of like, what? What does that mean? When I was watching it at first, I didn't
I
realize it
was
was new.
that was the one I was very skeptical about. I didn't
Yeah,
because like I say in previous video I've read the Silmarillion a long time ago,
yeah,
and it's hard to remember all those kind of facts and figures and so on.
yeah,
I didn't think that was. I thought mithril was just like an ore that you found in the ground. That was
yeah.
just really an amazing ore that could be used for weaponry, and it was super
Basically.
light, super strong.
Mm.
Then kind of creating this whole there's the light from one of the lost Silmarils going into this particular ore. Yeah, I thought that was really odd that they did that.
Yeah, I did. I struggled with that concept, but
Yes.
more, it was interesting because that moment, and we're sort of jumping ahead to halfway through the episode here, but it is something
Mm,
that everybody's talking about, the mithril.
yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think because they need that for the forging
Mm.
the rings, don't they? So
I
I don't
presume
actually
so.
I assume
I,
so, or
I
building the
assume
tower or the
so.
forge that,
Yeah.
yes. Anyway, I was kind of looking at it, and it's a very visual way that they've done it. There's the demon and the elf fighting over
Yeah.
the tree,
The Balrog.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, the Balrog, and
Yes.
you know, and then the tree itself becomes that silver outline.
Well, it got hit by a strike
It
of lightning, and
it
then that
did,
all went with
and
the
it becomes very
combination of
visual.
their.
And that image maybe reminded me of the secret entrance to the Dwarven Kingdom
Yeah.
in the Lord of the Rings film. And I think
Yes.
that they were drawing upon visual elements, but not necessarily understanding Tolkien lore.
No.
And I think that that's
No, that's
partly
very
what
clear.
this is the problem that the and I think as we get more into it, it is about the value of the lore, not necessarily being necessarily truthful to the storyline, but understanding its meaning, not
Yes. Yeah.
overcomplicating things sometimes.
There are fundamentals within any of these worlds, any of these things that you've got to try and stick to maintain that's why it's part of Lord of the Rings. It's there are fundamental issues that need to be adhered to, and I think that's where they fall down. I don't
Mm.
mind they've added in a couple of characters. I don't mind all that. That's not
No,
the end of the world.
yeah,
There's a sister for
a lot of
Isildur.
characters.
There's lots of characters of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But to me that doesn't worry me so much because there will be within life there's loads of additional characters that don't get mentioned in books and
yeah,
things, and that's all part of how these things work. But when they change a fundamental fact of the
mm,
origins of something important like the
mm,
mithril or
mm.
this thing. That
the
to
the
me is
essence of the elves, you know.
that those the essence of the elves exactly. These are
Mm.
they're not tweaking with a little minor plot line here. That's a
No.
kind of a major um change to the whole
Yeah,
philosophy of it,
and
isn't it?
arguably could have ripples or connotations that spread out
Yeah,
beyond this series into the films, touching upon those
yeah,
films and messing with discontinuity
yeah,
that you would get
yeah,
through understanding this and understanding the Lord of the Rings films, even though they're
totally.
sometime in the future. You know,
Yeah,
there's a sense that if you cause too big a wave, it could actually be detrimental to the foundations of the thing that we love.
yeah, yeah. It's like a when they say about like a butterfly's
Yeah,
flapping its wings in one place will cause a
yeah,
a tsunami
yeah,
or something in somewhere else. It's that kind
yeah.
of
Or in this
principle, isn't it?
case,
One
yeah,
little thing that gets added here suddenly becomes a law,
yeah,
that's now part of canon, if that's the
yeah.
case.
I can't see
And
it
they got to
that
be a
way.
bit
I can't.
careful. They
Yeah,
got to be a bit careful. It was well, they reintroduced the Harfoots, didn't they, in this episode?
yeah, yeah. They're back in it. We're back with Nori on her
But I,
journeys.
I am really struggling with the Harfoot side of it. I
Yeah,
find that interminably boring. They
right.
are they keep talking about, oh, we'll just leave them behind. We'll just leave them behind. I'll
Yeah,
take their wheels and leave them behind. And it's
yeah. There's no consistency with their characters. They seem happy and
yeah,
carefree, and they're sharing, and they but then suddenly
yeah,
next bit they're cutthroat and they'll get rid of
yeah.
their
Like
followers.
the guy that helped them out with something and hurt himself, and they're
Yeah,
saying, right, just leave him behind. It's like,
yeah.
yeah,
That
he was
that
helping
that
you with
isn't well written, is it? I mean, that doesn't seem to make sense.
no,
They needed to be
no.
kept more. I don't know. They need to have something a bit more nurturing about that whole process,
Mm,
because
mm,
they should look after each other, but they don't. And it's ironic, really, because
yeah,
Michaela Kavanagh, who plays Nori Brandyfoot, is I think she's one of the best actresses in the show.
yeah.
And it's a real shame that she's not used well enough. But on the other side of things, I quite enjoy the stranger. I quite
Yeah,
enjoy his presence and
it's
his
not too
relationship with
bad.
Nori.
It
Yeah, I
that's
quite
a
like that.
better bit of it. I'm just all this, traipsing about, no real sort of direction, sort of define, a definite sort of path or a definite sort of why is this is
Yeah,
yeah, the whole point is, I suppose, is about this stranger, isn't it, and him. But then there were just some very strange bits with him in it, wasn't there? The bit where he puts his hand into that and starts
yeah,
and like starts freezing up his arm and all this sort of thing.
yeah.
I
Apparently, he's speaking. He's saying words like "restore my hand" and stuff like this, and they're kind of embedding some kind of ritual heritage with this action, this magic.
yeah,
Um, I don't mind seeing the magic side of it. If I quite enjoyed the bits where the wizard uses the magic. I want to know who this character is. He slams the
yeah,
ground and
yeah.
destroys these, pushes, off
Scares them away,
the
doesn't he? Yeah,
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 and we see this forest that is in a bit of a state because of the incursion of the orcs and you know and the dark adar, yeah, and I quite like all that stuff, and I feel that the the Harfords are kind of they're just a device really to get us through to that to a certain extent,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. They're on
But
the
again,
periphery.
mm,
It's yeah, it just doesn't seem to be fulfilling any real need in the story for me. And I do just find it very boring. Their accents that they're doing it sort of grates on me a bit. The old Irish accent that they're putting
yeah, they're a
on,
bit
and
inconsistent with it as well,
it's a
aren't they?
bit yeah, it's a bit and like you say, the Adar bit, I'm I'm on a fence about a lot of things here. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit of a struggle to get through this. I'm sort of looking how long is left of this episode. The old
Mm,
boredom is kicking off. The
mm.
the orcs. I thought it was weird when he said to him, "Oh, come here, come and stand in the light and I'll burn your arm for 30 seconds.
It was
I
weird,
thought,
wasn't it? That was
why was
strange.
why did he need to do that to the orc? Why was he?
Mm,
What point did that make? That whole bit where the people decide they're going to go and join him because they used their ancestors, and so they go down
mm,
there, and
mm,
as soon as that group of people came up to all those orcs and things standing there the way they were,
mm,
they were a bit fucking shit scared, and out half of them would have gone at least.
mm, mm.
That bit, and then we gotta now kill this kid to show that you're loyal. I hate all that sort of crap.
Yeah,
It's
it
really
wasn't very good,
crappy
was it?
writing.
Not
That
very
they would have.
believable.
And again, all those people would have just run off. They would have been like, "What? They're going to kill me? Whoa, I'm off."
And you've got to think what's in their mind. What are they thinking? These people are going to look after us. What are we going to do? Follow
yeah,
them? Are we going to live in a village near
yeah,
these orcs?
exactly.
It doesn't make any sense why they
No,
would go there. I don't know what they're going to do with them, what part they're going to play. I maybe they're going to transform them, or then maybe there's something going on with this, because there's obviously Mount Doom is going to erupt and there's going to be clouds and the sun's going to be gone, and this whole device about the orcs fearing the sun. It's just a device so that when the clouds come over, clouds
yeah,
of ash, they can then come out it of their
yes,
tunnels and
yes.
infect the land.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It kind of makes it'll make all the tunnels. Then, if that happens, if the Mount Doom erupts and there's all this sort of
mm,
darkness, then it kind of makes all that tunneling sort of irrelevant, doesn't it? I mean, they could have just
waited.
incorporated that better.
Yeah. I,
and, and what I couldn't understand is, why didn't the orcs just attack at night? Why didn't they just travel by night, take over these
yeah.
villages, stay in the places? It wasn't.
Yeah.
It's no real advantage to spend months digging a load
No.
of bloody trenches. Seems very odd. Very odd. They got to
I
live.
mean,
The thing is, they got to live somewhere, haven't they? The orcs are they underground normally, or are they just they come
in
out at night?
caves,
They go and
maybe.
hide and come out at night. They must come out to find some food somewhere. Why aren't they just nocturnal? I don't get it.
Mm,
So it's the logic again. I think we've spoken
mm.
about this in
We
other
did.
TV shows. The logic of things, how they make things work, why they
Mm,
put these things into the program. I'm
mm,
scratching my head as to what
mm,
just think logically about these things.
mm, mm,
Um, I the other big one, and we've talked about
mm.
it before, is Galadriel, isn't it?
Yeah.
She is
Talk about
such an
miscasting. I know.
she's such an unlikable character. How she can be inspiring everybody to raise this army to go off, and I could see she may have a point, and we need to go and sort this issue out, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't take
Yeah.
her with me for the light of day. I would have put her in prison and Halbrand, and just gone down there and helped them out. But that's the sort of thing I sort of feel. Halbrand went and killed a couple of mutilated a couple of people in the streets, and then he's
Mm,
now going to be put in as the lord of this place, even though he doesn't want to be.
mm,
She keeps manipulating him. She keeps sort of trying to, turn him round by telling him false truths, and
mm, mm. There's
it
this
all
scene,
sort
isn't
of.
there, in the
She's
when
almost
the
like becoming
soldiers
like
are
an
training.
anti-hero. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
She's
don't know.
becoming a
She's
character
not
that
liked.
nobody.
But
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
from what I've seen. I mean, some people may like her, but there's that
Hmm.
stupid scene where they're in the volunteer army are training,
Yeah. Oh
and
yes.
she she comes in and says, "I'll show you how to kill orcs," and then she does this movement. She stab,
Oh yeah.
twist, and
Yeah.
gut.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I mean,
It
it's
was the
not
whole thing
exactly a
was.
great advice, is it? I mean, that's just common sense, and
Yeah.
it's there's no levity to it.
No.
It's all so serious, and then she attacks these blokes, and she makes mincemeat of them easily, but she does get cut. And getting a little bit of context, these Numenorians, they're meant to be like these mighty warriors, aren't they? They're meant to
They
be
are. They are. They're supposed to
superhuman.
be very tall, aren't they?
Yeah, and
Somewhere I heard that
strong.
the Elendil's supposed to be 7 foot tall,
Yeah,
and a huge warrior. You know, these are supposed to be like godlike men. Do you know what I mean?
but
It's
now they're fresh-faced teenagers wearing
yeah,
this kind of strange fish-like armor that is
yeah,
pale and not very grand. It's kind of, I don't know. It's
yeah,
funeral. It's kind of, I don't know. It's like wedding armor. It's like something you might wear at a wedding, isn't it, or something like that? It's kind of got this
yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it's very
this
decorative, isn't it? Rather
decorative.
than looking. And then she
Yeah,
turns up with a full suit of metal armor on. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
She's got a full suit of
which
armor
doesn't really
nicely,
fit her
you know,
very
and the
well, if
others
you
have all
ask
got
me.
like this scale mail sort of shit. It's like,
Yeah. Again, I think that the design of that stuff, although there are
mm,
references to some older,
mhm.
like I quite like Ellendale's helmet when he's on the
Yeah.
ship at the end. I thought that was
Oh
quite
yeah.
good with those wings. I thought that was
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
cool. But a lot of it, it just seems sort of randomly made up, and
Mm,
it's a
mm,
shame. That's another thing. That you kind of rely on the visuals when the script isn't that
yeah.
great, but then when you're questioning like the armor, you're thrown out of the reality, aren't you? You're not kind of like
Yes.
you can't fully commit. That's it. You
No.
want to fully commit to this, but we keep questioning it. It keeps making us question what's going on the screen, the logic,
Yeah.
the design. Who are these characters? What function do they serve? What's the
Mm.
end goal for this thing? It's just been put in here. These
And
orcs
you
are
know
light
what? There
sensitive.
aren't there aren't very many characters that you kind of can get on their side. Do you know what I mean? Because you're always
Yeah,
thinking they're so miserable, or they're trying to manipulate the other people, or they're so unlikable.
yeah.
I
Well,
kind
that's
of want
why I
something to
like
rally
Nori.
behind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why
maybe Nori. You
I
know, she's
quite
probably
like
one of the
Nori
only
because she wants to
characters.
help this guy. She's the only
Yeah,
guy.
she
She's the only
does.
one with any kind of kindness or sympathy.
Yeah,
You know,
and trying not to
and
jump to conclusions and trying to be
yeah,
fair.
she's
I think
trying
you're
to be
right.
inclusive, which is funny,
Yeah,
really, because everything
yeah.
else that's been designed that is inclusive isn't really working. But her,
No.
the role that she has is
Yeah.
she's looking after this guy who's very
Yes.
scary in a way and powerful,
Yeah.
but she's looking beyond that, and
Now
she
the only maybe the only other character that I starting to like a bit more is Durin. I thought
yes,
he had a little bit more of a likability about him.
I agree. Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Obviously that whole bit with the tree and Elrond not knowing, and then he finds out. You know, Gil-galad has obviously been a bit, sort of send him there on false pretenses.
yeah,
Um, but I thought the bit with Durin and him, where they were talking that was the bit that I thought was really funny, was when they're carrying that table back to the
yeah,
dwarves. It's like
yeah,
probably
yeah,
200 miles away, and yet they're just going to carry it all the
yeah, yeah,
way. I was like,
yeah,
do you not think they could have just put that on the back of a cart or something and just
yeah.
traveled it? Like it's like that sort of thing.
Yeah,
But the reason they
stupid
did
things.
that, the
Yeah,
reason
for
they
the
did that
humor.
is for the humor, for it to slip a
Yeah,
little bit and him go, wasn't even
yeah,
really, I told a load of bullshit. Um,
yeah,
but I actually thought, do you know what? They talked to each other and they actually tried to, relate, and Elrond was honest, wasn't he? I was sent there under a false pretense, and but I didn't know that I was there to
yeah.
get the mithril. That's kind of been,
Yeah,
false
there
to
was a
me.
sense of brotherhood and friendship, wasn't there,
Yeah, and
between the two?
trust. They were trusting each
Yeah.
other, and
Mm,
what was good for me was it wasn't just a case that Durin, when he heard that, didn't just do the typical "oh blah 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 blah," and
mm,
he actually was, "oh no, okay, all right, let's
mm,
tell me the truth, and let's
mm,
talk and sort this out." And I thought that was actually a nicer bit, where you thought,
mm.
actually, that's good. They're gonna work together and try and help each other. So yeah, I thought that was a better bit for me.
Yeah,
The bit with the table, where they're carrying the table, did make me laugh though. I was like,
yeah.
yeah,
That was a little bit of Lord of the Rings humor, which I throughout the film there are little moments like that which are funny,
yeah, yeah.
and
Oh yes, there are some funnier
yeah,
bits in the films,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Yes,
And I
yeah,
think that
yeah,
that's good that they're having some in the show, and then kind of relates back to the films
Yeah,
themselves, isn't it? You know, and to a certain
absolutely.
extent, you'd kind of hope that, say, the Harfords would provide a little bit of humor in the scheme of things,
Yes,
like the Hobbits
yes,
did originally, but they seem to have
yeah. That
missed that
definitely,
out, haven't they? They've
definitely.
missed that. They've missed the
They've
opportunity
not,
so far.
yeah, they've not managed to harness that, have they? Not at
No.
all. It's quite serious at times, isn't it? It's because they want to move on and they want to leave
Yeah.
people behind. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh dear, you know.
Yeah.
I think I might have said it last time, but I think I was wondering whether Nori and her group were going to stay somewhere and become the hobbits, you know, in a shire
Yeah.
somewhere, you know. But I don't think that's going to be the case, is it? But
No, no, no. I don't think it's going to be the
they're
case, but
potentially the ancestors, aren't they? But
yeah, maybe, or they might just
yeah,
disappear into history. You
yeah,
know, I think a lot of what we're seeing is just going to evaporate from history, and some of these made-up characters
yeah.
will never be referenced ever again. You know,
No,
so
no,
yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And I didn't like Bronwyn's change of character. I mean, she
right,
suddenly became very negative, didn't she,
yeah,
in this particular episode?
yeah,
And Aaron Deer had to convince her not to give up when she was the one who
yes,
was giving these feisty speeches, and suddenly she
yeah,
was like quite determined that they weren't going to succeed. You know,
yeah,
despair had overtaken her, and that was a shame. You know, they need to find reasons for this stuff. Like, she may well have
exactly.
picked up the blade, the Nazgul blade,
Hmm,
and
hmm,
held it, and it may well have kind of wrapped around her arm or something like that, and she could have been
hmm,
corrupted slightly and given up. You know,
hmm.
there may have been a device which gave her motivation.
Yeah,
But no, she didn't. Arondir convinced her to
I
stay, and they're
mean,
obviously going to do something with the tower, aren't they? That's there, maybe.
yeah. I think the
Yeah.
thing for me is if you see, there's no soldiers in their villages. There's no
No.
none of them are warriors. None of them would take on an army of orcs. Basically,
Yeah.
they're saying they're going to
Be
stay in
stupid.
this tower
Mm.
and defend against the orcs, and it's not the same. It's not the same as, you know, Helm's Deep. You know, if you compare it to sort of the Helm's Deep battle, there was quite a few warriors there. They were defending a whole kingdom, if you like. It was like a, you know, this to me was, why didn't they just sort of say to themselves, well, they're over there, let's go
Yeah.
that way and
Yeah.
just keep going that way
Well,
until they're not a problem anymore.
I think
And
that
and
I
I
think they're
just
going to. I
they've
think what
already
they're going
left
to
the
do is,
village.
yeah, I
They've
think they're
already
going to blow the
gone.
tower up or something like that, and then
Right.
head in the opposite direction.
Right.
I suspect that's what might happen. I don't know. I've
It
watched a
makes no
few
sense,
things.
you know, if they were saying, "Oh, we're not giving up our homes and all that sort of thing." Well, they've
Mm,
already left their homes. They abandoned their village because they didn't want to be captured. I could see they went to the tower, but then when they knew that the orcs were going to come because Aaron Deer came back with the message,
mm,
I think they would have just said, "Right, let's get the hell out of here." You know, there's
mm.
1,000 orcs and 50
Yeah.
of us. Let's
Again, it's we're trying to make sense of the show, but it's very difficult,
yeah,
isn't it? It is
it
very
is.
difficult.
It
You know,
is. And that's why
I'm
I think
struggling.
that's why I'm losing interest in it. I'm losing
Yeah.
interest because I can't see reasoning behind things. I can't see the
No.
motivations. It's just not making sense to me. And like you say, when they've then added in these bits, the changing of the whole mithril thing, having the light of
Mm,
the
mm,
Varanine, and it's that's
mm.
just to me, yeah, you're really starting to go in the wrong
Yeah, if
direction
they're going
here.
to do that, what else might they do?
Yeah,
Because they're way before.
yeah.
They don't have to mess with stuff like this. They can add the
No,
characters in, and we can't complain too much about that because they need characters.
there's
But
so much
you
to
know,
write. There's so much to use in the law,
yeah,
in what's already there. You
yeah,
know, stick to it. People will stop moaning so much. You know, there'll be less criticism because if you stick to it, but pad it out with a couple of periphery characters, and you know
yeah.
things that are a bit dubious in the book. You take a little bit of, you know, license with, not, you know, changing major issues.
Yeah,
Dear oh
yeah.
dear.
I
Hmm.
thought they'd have Celebrimbor a bit more in it at this point.
Yeah, he was only in it very brief, wasn't he?
He was, and
Mm.
Gil Galad.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was in this quite a bit this episode, wasn't it? We saw
He
more
was in a
of
bit
him.
more,
He
but
explained about the
again,
mithril. Then he was at the table, which
mm,
it was quite an interesting little encounter. They don't want to tell each other anything, do they?
no.
And I think that his character, it's a bit underhand.
Yeah.
I get this feeling that he's almost a bit creepy in how he approaches things.
Yeah.
And he's not grand or elven in his
I
mysterious
think
ways.
I've got similar criticisms of him as I have of Galadriel. There's no expression, there's no real. But I'm starting to wonder: is this how they've been directed? Is this how they've been told
Yeah.
to behave and give that kind of? It's almost like a robot
Mm,
performance.
mm.
And for me, I mean, you can see Elrond, he's a bit more, you can see he's a bit soft around the edges. He conveys a
Yeah.
bit of emotion. He's a much nicer, likable character.
Yeah. He's a
Um,
bit wet sometimes, I
he's a bit
find.
wet, but
Yeah.
but at least we're getting some sort of emoting from him, some sort
Yeah.
of sense of what he's feeling.
He looks like he's trying to be elven-like, doesn't he, with the actor when
Yeah.
he's playing that role.
Mm,
Whereas
mm.
I feel like the others don't really understand what it is to be an elf or haven't been directed, as you say, correctly,
Yeah.
which is
I just
which is
started to wonder.
strange.
They're all acting a bit strange, aren't they? And I think they've been given
Yeah.
some strange direction on how to act like an elf.
Yeah.
Um, mm, yeah.
Having said that, I quite enjoy Isildur in his character. I hope they give him
All
more
right.
meat now. I hope that
Yeah.
he gets more meat in what's coming. He should do.
Yeah.
And
It's going to be interesting to see how they turn it because obviously
yeah,
Elendil becomes a king.
he
He
does.
becomes like
Yeah,
a king, and Isildur being his son is, they there's no real suggestion that they're of any. I know that Elendil seems like he's a little bit higher, but I'm wondering how they're going to bring that round. Because they obviously
well,
need him to become a king.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
king in, I
I
suppose,
think
king
you're
in,
right.
is he king in Numenor?
Yeah,
So
and Gil Galad becomes this mega hero. I mean,
yes,
he's elevated to lead the armies
yes, that's
against
right.
and at the moment he just doesn't seem like that sort of character. So they've all seemed to have pretty steep character arcs coming up, don't they? They're going to be
Yeah,
changing. And
yeah,
how come? Why aren't they wise already?
yeah,
I think, do you know, this discussion it has really highlighted how they've struggled to nail the identity of the
yes,
show,
yeah,
doesn't it?
definitely,
I think just
definitely.
generally looking across the board, there's some
Yeah,
key things missing. There are some key rules
yes,
that they've broke, and
yeah,
there are things that we've all kind of accepted they had to do.
yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily run to court for a lot of it. And
No,
I think they're just struggling. They're kind of averaging out. And, you know, it's such a shame because we need more majesty. We need
yes.
more impressive performances. And we're just not getting that. And you
Mm,
do see this, don't you? You see some shows or films, the lead actor can't carry the show,
yeah,
and who do you blame for this? Where
yeah.
does this lie? And you have to say
Mm.
they have had $1 billion to make this show. If they had to recast somebody or get the cast right, they should have spent a long time
Yeah,
nailing Galadriel to to into that role.
I
They should
know, I
have got
know.
her
This is the
right,
thing,
but they
especially
didn't.
after you had someone like Kate Blanchett playing the
Yeah,
character, and people had really liked her in that role.
yeah,
You'd think they would have really, yeah. It's mind blowing, isn't it? Really, they've spent so much
yeah.
money on this, and yeah,
I do think, and thinking about that it's understanding elves. They don't get
yeah,
it with the show.
no,
They don't understand elves.
no,
If they could get that right, I think it would be a lot
mm,
better.
mm,
But
mm,
they don't, and
yeah,
people aren't in awe of Galadriel. They should be.
no,
that
No.
she should be walking through the
I
city,
mean,
and we
she
feel
like
her
admits at one
presence.
stage, doesn't she? Everybody doesn't, they were mutiny against my own squad were going to mutiny against me, and
Yeah,
Gilgalad wanted rid of me to banish me away, and all this sort of thing. She sort of says, they were I think they were thinking I was becoming what I was fighting, an evil, and yeah, it's whew, yeah.
yeah. That was one, and it's so throw that on top of the physics and the unexplainable stupidity
Yeah,
of some of the storylines, and like
yeah.
things like was it oil barrels or ale barrels blowing up on a ship? You know,
Yeah. I
that
thought
was
that was like they had
massive
massive
explosion. Yeah,
explosives on them. Yeah,
it was that was stupid. It's the laws of physics aren't working
yeah,
properly, and
yeah. Exactly.
there's a whole bunch of stuff that just drags you out of
Well, I mean,
wanting
now they've seen that, surely they
immersion.
can just throw a few of those barrels into the
Yeah,
into the enemy and blow them up.
I know. I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult. You listen. I want to like this show. I was looking
Yeah,
forward to being taken
yeah,
into
yeah.
Middle Earth again and to experience those things. I love the films, all six. I love them dearly,
Mm,
and
mm.
I wanted to feel the same for this.
Yeah, I agree. I love the first three. The
Mm-hmm.
Fellowship of the Ring and so on.
Mm-hmm.
The Hobbits I thought were okay. Not I don't like them quite as much, but yeah, I'm problem is I'm not invested in this. I've
No,
watched what is it now 5 or 6 hours of this stuff, and it's not moving very particularly
no,
fast enough.
no.
It's the characters are just unlikable apart from one or two little
Mm.
moments. It's just
We've got five
this.
seasons, so there's. I think it's 5 seasons.
I'm not sure I'm going to survive the first season,
I,
to be honest with you.
no, I'm going to see it out. I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with
I'm
it.
going to stick with it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because it's good to review it and see. You can't make comment about something unless you've seen it, can you?
No,
So
exactly.
I think
Yeah.
it's important to see these things. But other TV shows, by now, I think I might have just said, right, I'm going to watch something else now.
Mm,
It's not quite holding me there, but because it's
mm,
the Lord of the
mm,
Rings,
mm,
it's kept me going.
mm. Ho hum,
Okay.
as Bilbo might say.
Anyway, thanks for joining us today. We're going to stick with it, even though it's proving a little bit challenging. If you like what we're saying, obviously, please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that greatly. We'd like people to press the like button, and also any comments you got. What do you think? Are you really enjoying this? Give us some comments, and we'll come back to you. Anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.